In this video, we're going to see how we can configure Visual Studio Code to use the Clang compiler that we have installed in a previous video. So let's do this. We will start Visual Studio Code on our system here. So let's say Visual Studio Code. This is going to open Visual Studio Code as we see here. And here I have a folder that we are going to be using for this project. Let's make sure the folder is empty so that we have a clean slate to start from. And make sure you have a folder you work with to configure this on your system. So we're going to grab the folder here, 7 VS Code configuration for Clang, and we're going to drop it on Visual Studio Code here. This is going to open this up, and it is going to be an empty folder. The first thing we want to do is to create a CPP file or a C++ file we would like to compile using our Clang compiler. Let's hit the plus button here that says new file, I guess. It is going to pop up a window, and we can type main.cpp as the name for our file. Once we have the file created, it is going to be opened up to the right here, and we are going to copy and steal the code we're going to be using for this lecture here. I am going to share a link to this code here so that you can directly copy it and paste it in Visual Studio Code. That's going to be attached as a resource to this lecture here, so don't worry. And another thing I want you to not worry about is the content of this file here, because we are now concerned with getting a C++ compiler to compile this code in C++ 20 mode. We will have plenty of time to understand what is going on here. We just want to get a compiler working. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code and paste in the code. Okay, now that we have the code, we want to compile this with the Clang compiler. To do that, we will come to terminal and say configure tasks. And if you do that, you will have a bunch of compilers detected pop up here in this window in Visual Studio Code. We want to choose one that says Clang++, and we go all the way down here and choose it. You can see the path to the Clang++ compiler. If you click on this, this is going to create a tasks.json file. That file is going to be living in a folder named .vscode. And the .vs code folder is going to be living under our project folder here. I want you to see this. Now that we have the settings here generated by Visual Studio Code, what we want to do is to adapt them to work exactly like we want. And to make this work, I am going to steal the code I have in one of the projects I have done before. So let's go to this. And again, I am going to share a link to this if you are interested so that you can copy and paste like we are doing here. Let's go to Clang. You see we have a section for building with Clang. And I am going to copy the args section, the contents of it. And I'm going to right click and copy and come back to Visual Studio Code. I am going to take out whatever I had in this args section, and I am going to paste in whatever I got from my GitHub repository. And this is going to save us on some typos. In earlier videos, I had students type this, but that was a bad idea because many students would forget the dash here, many students would forget a plus, and that would cause problems. And if you just go to the GitHub repository and copy and paste like we are doing here, that's going to avoid unnecessary frustrations. So what this is going to do, it is going to call the Clang++ compiler. It is going to tell it to build in C++20 mode. It is going to tell it to build whatever it is we have in our project that has a C++ extension, CPP, like we have here. It's going to compile all that, and it is going to generate a binary executable that is named rooster.exe. That's really what we are telling our C++ compiler here. The other thing I want you to do is to come to label here to improve on the usability of this. We want to take out whatever it is we had in, and we are going to say build with Clang. You can say whatever you want here. Whatever you think is going to help you better, type that here. And this is going to be a text that is going to show up whenever we need to select a compiler to build with. Once you have this in, you can close the tasks.json file. And you can make sure you have the main CPP file selected here. And we're going to come to terminal and choose run tasks. Now you see that we have a task to build with Clang. And we can click on this. And when we do that, this is going to kick off a process to build our source code. And the source code is whatever we have in our main CPP file here. You see the build is successful. Okay, and if we bring up a terminal window and run our rooster binary, let's do that, you will see that it is going to say value 3, and this is what is expected to come out of the source code we have here. Again, I don't expect you to understand whatever we have in this source code. This is just to make sure we can get our compiler to build in C++20 mode. Once we know that our compiler can build in C++20 mode, we will go on and use these settings to start and learn all about C++. Now that we have this working, we want to get rid of these arrow lines or squiggly lines we see here. And one way to do that in Visual Studio Code is to come to the View menu. Let's do that. We're going to choose Command Palette, and we will choose C and C++ Edit Configuration UI. You can even type this if you want, if you don't see this menu pop up in the first place. This is showing up here because I used it recently. So let's select this. And when you do that, this is going to pop up another window saying IntelliSense Configurations. And if you want, you can play with these settings here, but what I really want you to do is to scroll all the way to the bottom and choose the C++ standard that Visual Studio Code is going to use to understand your C++ code. We are learning about C++20 in this course here, so we are going to select C++20, make sure the C++ standard is C++20. Once you have this, you can close this window. And now you see that the squiggly lines are gone, and we are ready to start using Visual Studio Code to build our C++ projects using the Clang compiler. And this is really cool. Again, to build your C++ code, you come to Terminal, Run Task, you choose whatever compiler you want. We're going to choose Clang. And if the build is successful, you will see a message saying the build finished successfully. And once you do that, you can hit Enter and run your binary, and you will see the output here. This is really all we wanted to do in this lecture. Now that we have this set up, we are going to stop here in this lecture. In the next one, we're going to show you a way you can set up all these compilers in a single project and have the flexibility to choose which compiler to use and be able to switch between compilers easily. That's going to be really cool. Go ahead and finish up here and meet me in the next lecture.